Saw 4. The fourth Saw installment in 4 years was once again directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, the director of the second and third movies, and was released in 2007. And all that tells me is that it had to compete at the box office with critical darlings Hot Rod and B Movie, so it must have had a tough time. For starters, there will be spoilers for Saws 1 through 3. I feel like that goes without saying at this point. So this movie starts with the autopsy of John Kramer, also known as Jigsaw. We have returning characters such as Officer Rigg from Saw 2, and new characters who are either just briefly introduced in the last movie, such as Detective Hoffman and Jill, John Kramer's ex-wife, and completely new characters such as Special Agents Peter Strom and Lindsay Perez from the FBI. In this one, we follow kind of 3 separate storylines. One is Officer Rigg being tested, one is the FBI doing their investigation, and the other one are flashbacks into John's life. Okay, for pros. Like I always say, Tobin Bell is great as John Kramer / Jigsaw. He's never not going to be good, but I'm always going to mention him, especially in movies where the pros start dwindling away. I always have to mention him. The autopsy scene at the beginning is kind of cool, can get a little too graphic, and the color grading is kind of weird, but in this movie, that's one of the better parts. I don't hate the federal agents in this movie, particularly Agent Strom, although he is a poorly written Fed. Just as all the police officers were dumb in 1 through 3, both the police officers and the federal agents can be dumb or not even act really like federal agents at some points throughout this movie. It's almost like whoever was writing it had never met one in their entire life. I mentioned in Saw 2 that the directing was okay, but it had some cool transitions, and then in Saw 3, it was basically the same directing without cool transitions. So in this one, he adds the cool transitions again. So I'm wondering if he realized the error of his ways and thought, let's just put the cool transitions back again. That's what made the second one kind of unique. And I can say this movie is definitively not as boring as Saw 3. Is the writing better? Debatable. But it's not as boring. It's easier to watch because you're not falling asleep. So that's something. Oh, and might I add, it's not a pro or a con, just an observation. They turn the dial up just a little bit on the gore, but not crazy in this one. It's still gorier than the other 3 movies, but it's not a giant leap. Okay, so for the cons. I do not like the character of Detective Hoffman. He is a poor addition to the series, and he has a very punchable face. Like I mentioned before, the cops and federal agents never seem to follow any kind of protocol that they're supposed to, and I guess that's just what we're going to get always throughout the series. I don't care about most of the characters, even the old ones. Old and new, don't really seem to care. I'm just watching whatever's on my screen and just going, okay. The intricacies of the games that are set up make you question how in the world Jigsaw could have gotten all of this coordinated at once. It's always kind of been like that, but even more so in this one. There's so many moving parts that it becomes even less believable that he got everything set up the way he did. We get more of a glimpse into John's backstory with his ex-wife Jill, and I hate that whole storyline. They shouldn't have even included it. She shouldn't have been a character. Don't like that. Also, for some of the scenes in this movie, Billy the puppet looks kind of weird. I don't know what they did with it. It's almost like in some of the Halloween movies where the mask looks different in some of them. I don't know if they just use different Billy puppets, but some of them you're like, that doesn't look quite right. The editing, per usual, can be choppy and weird and fast, and not really enjoyable in that sense. And the twist in this movie is a mixed bag. There's kind of actually 2 twists. One of the twists I don't like at all, and it has ramifications that affect the rest of the series. The other twist I half like and I half don't, because when you first see it, you're like, and then when you think more about it, you're like,
what the hell are you talking about?
Also, and this isn't a spoiler because they mention it at the beginning of the movie, but Jigsaw was using Amanda as an accomplice in the previous 2 movies. And they say that it's clear that Jigsaw was using another accomplice, and part of the mystery of this movie is trying to figure out who that is. And the fact that they start that here is terrible, because it sets a precedent for the rest of the franchise that you can keep saying, oh, there were more accomplices, and that's how all these things were able to happen. And it creates an absolute mess of the intricate web that Jigsaw has woven. It's just not good. When all is said and done, there were a lot of things I didn't like about this movie, but I had a better time watching it than I did when I was watching Saw 3. I'm going to give this a 5.9 out of 10. It's the same old song and dance. Well, 4 down, 4 more to go until we get to Spiral. Alright, well if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out, and keep checking back for more videos.
I want to play a game.
Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.